Silent Screams, hey, welcome back to Silent Screams, where every story leaves you with chills you can't shake off. Tonight's story. It's a bit different, but trust me, it's going to make you rethink your next fast food stop. We all love a quick meal, right? Well, after this, you might think twice before hitting that drive-thru after dark. Settle in, turn down the lights, and let's dive into a nightmare you won't forget. It was a Saturday night, and like most people my age, I was up way too late. I hadn't planned to be out so late, but time slipped away. I was starving, and the only thing still open was this old fast food joint a few miles down the road. You know the kind I'm talking about, one of those places that's been around forever, a little dingy, but dependable. They had that neon sign with the letters half burnt out, and it always flickered like it was just barely hanging on. I'd been there a bunch of times before, always on nights like this when I just needed something quick to eat. It wasn't the cleanest place, but the food was cheap, and it did the job. That night, though, things felt off. As I pulled into the parking lot, I noticed something strange. The place was completely empty. Not a single car in sight, except for the one at the far end of the lot, tucked away in the shadows. Normally, even this late, you'd see a few people grabbing something on their way home from the bars or a late shift, but it was dead. The neon sign buzzed above me, casting a sickly green glow over the lot. I shrugged it off, figuring I'd just beat the rush, and pulled into the drive-thru. The speaker crackled to life as soon as I rolled down my window. "Welcome. What can I get for you?" The voice was flat, monotone, like they couldn't care less. That wasn't unusual for fast food, though, right? It's late, people are tired. I ordered the usual, a burger, fries, and a soda, and pulled up to the window. Now, here's where things started to get weird. The first thing I noticed when I got to the window was that the lights inside were way dimmer than usual. Normally, you'd see the bright glow of the kitchen, workers moving around, and the usual fast food chaos. But tonight, it was almost completely dark inside. The only light came from the small bulb over the cash register, barely illuminating the figure standing there. He was tall, lanky, with his back to me, facing the fryers. His uniform looked old, like it hadn't been washed in a long time. Something about the way he stood there, completely still, gave me the creeps. I tapped my horn lightly, hoping to get his attention. The man turned around slowly, and I immediately wished I hadn't honked. His face, something was wrong with it. His eyes were too wide, like they were trying to take in too much, and his mouth didn't quite close all the way. He stared at me for a moment, then slid the window open without saying a word. I handed him my card, trying to keep things normal, but the whole time, he didn't break eye contact. It wasn't the kind of stare where someone's just zoning out. It was like he was watching me, studying me. His hand brushed mine as he took the card, and his skin was cold. I'm talking ice cold. I couldn't stop the shiver that ran down my spine. He swiped my card, handed it back, and then just stood there, staring again. Thanks, I mumbled, trying to end the interaction as fast as possible. Without a word, he turned back toward the fryers and disappeared into the darkness. I waited, glancing at the empty parking lot again, feeling more uneasy by the second. What the hell was taking so long? It was just a burger and fries. How hard could it be? That's when I heard it, the faintest sound, like someone whispering. I froze, straining to listen. It was coming from inside the building. At first, I thought maybe it was just the guy talking to himself, but then the whispers grew louder, overlapping, like multiple voices all speaking at once. I leaned forward, peering into the darkened restaurant, and that's when I saw them. There were more people back there, just standing in the shadows. At least, I think they were people. I couldn't make out any faces, just dark, humanoid shapes, barely visible in the gloom. They weren't moving, weren't doing anything, just just standing there, watching. I swallowed hard, gripping the steering wheel tighter. This wasn't right. Something was seriously off. Finally, the guy came back to the window, holding my bag of food. He handed it to me without a word, his eyes still locked onto mine. I didn't even bother checking the order, I just wanted to get out of there. Thanks, I muttered again, my voice shaky, and I hit the gas, pulling away from the window as fast as I could without actually peeling out. As I drove down the empty road, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I glanced in my rearview mirror, half expecting to see those dark figures standing outside the restaurant, but the lot was empty. Still, the unease clung to me, like a shadow I couldn't escape. When I got home, I threw the bag on the kitchen counter and headed straight to the sink to wash my hands, trying to shake the weird feeling. My reflection in the bathroom mirror looked pale, my eyes wide. I splashed some water on my face and tried to laugh it off. It was just late. I was tired, right? I walked back to the kitchen and opened the bag, but the moment I pulled out the burger, my stomach turned. The wrapper was stained with something dark, too dark to be ketchup. My hands trembled as I unwrapped it, revealing the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. It wasn't just a burger. The patty was there, but it was covered in something black and oily, like sludge. It stank, too, a rancid, metallic smell that hit me like a punch to the gut. And nestled inside the bun, half buried in the slime, was something small and twisted. A finger. I dropped the burger, my heart pounding in my chest. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It had to be a prank, right? Some sick joke. But the longer I stared at it, the more I realized this wasn't a joke. The finger was real, and I had no idea where it had come from. Panicking, I grabbed my phone to call the restaurant to demand answers, but when I dialed the number, all I got was static. I tried again. Same thing. By this point, my hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. I had to get rid of it, the food, the finger, all of it. I grabbed the bag, threw everything back inside, and rushed outside to the trash bin. But as soon as I opened the door, I froze. There, standing at the end of my driveway, was the guy from the restaurant. He was just standing there, staring at me, his mouth hanging open in that same unsettling way. "Hey!" I shouted, my voice cracking. "What the hell is this?" He didn't respond. Just kept standing there, watching me with those wide, unblinking eyes. I slammed the door and locked it, my heart racing. How did he even know where I lived? I paced the kitchen, my mind spinning. I had to call the cops, but I couldn't think straight. My thoughts were scattered, jumping from one thing to the next, trying to make sense of what was happening. Then the knocking started. At first, it was light, almost hesitant, like someone tapping on the glass. I crept toward the front window, peeking through the curtains. The guy was still there, but now he was closer, standing just outside the door, his face pressed against the glass. His breath fogged the window as he stared inside. "Go away," I shouted, backing away from the door. "Leave me alone." The knocking grew louder, more insistent. It wasn't just at the door now, it was coming from all around the house. Windows, walls, the back door. Like a dozen hands were pounding on every surface, desperate to get in. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over my own feet, my heart hammering in my chest. I had to get out of there. I ran upstairs to my bedroom, grabbing my phone again, but as soon as I dialed 911, the line went dead. The pounding grew louder, shaking the walls. And then, just as suddenly as it had started, it stopped. Silence. For a long moment, I stood there, my breath coming in shallow gasps, waiting for something, anything, to happen. But nothing did. The house was quiet, still. I crept back downstairs, cautiously peering out the window. The guy was gone. The driveway was empty, the street quiet. I opened the door just a crack, scanning the yard, but there was no sign of him. Maybe it was over. Maybe he'd finally left. But as I turned to close the door, something caught my eye. Lying on the front step, where the guy had been standing, was a single fast food wrapper. And it was covered in blood. 3 interconnected scenes in one picture one. A lone car pulls up to a dimly lit fast food drive-thru, the menu board flickering as shadowy figures move in the background. 2. Inside the fast food joint, the employees stand frozen, their faces expressionless, while one customer peers over the counter into an empty, dark kitchen. 3. The final scene shows the customer driving away in panic, the shadowy figures now standing at the windows, watching him leave, their eyes glowing in the dark. Integrated style, cinematic horror, dramatic lighting, highly detailed textures, film grain effect.